Jeff. You are on mute, Jeff.
Trying to get Baba's picture there. Somehow this chair has changed a little bit. I don't want to, who wants to see my face when you got Baba up there? Okay. So let's see. Jasim, if you can put up that email. And Momo, have you got that in front of you? That
I do. I'm just in a co-working space, so I might not be able to read it.
okay? How about Jim Oppenheim? Is he still around?
He's still here.
Can you see that starting with Darwin often spoke of consciously, that portion there, and then down through the paragraph, the poem.
All right, let me set up my screen so I can see both of it. Hold on. Mute options. There we go. Yeah, that paragraph.
And the poem below, yeah.
All right. Darwin often spoke of consciously keeping up our inner momentum of dissolving in Baba's loving presence and resisting the tendency to give in to inertia, the conventional way of the world. It creates great it requires great sensitivity to tune into our inner current at the level of the heart. Is it flowing towards Baba and our life in the world, or is it stalled and even receding? Because Darwin would say, once we get trapped in spiritual inertia, it has a way of sabotaging our efforts to draw closer to Baba. It puts off our efforts till tomorrow. It causes us to get caught up in duties that drain our inner vitality, distracting us from remembering Baba. Returning again and again to Baba in our thoughts and heart center is ever available to keep our inner vitality alive. As Baba said, don't go anywhere without me. Okay.
And the poem.
All right. Can you bring it up just a little bit? There you go. Faith is the sail hoisted above the ship of your being. When there is a sail, the wind of the beloved's love can carry you to place after place of grace and wonder. Without a sail, your ship will only drift with the tide of the world. Oof.
In that last line.
These lines highlight Darwin's emphasis on momentum. Always so timely.
No, that's fine. So now if you can, Jasim, put up the beginning of maintaining our spiritual flow, I think is what the title is. But it's interesting. I like that last line. If you don't lift up your sail, you'll only float with the tide of the world. You know, it's easy just to kind of forget a while, and 3 days later you kind of wake up to that you've been kind of drifting off into the world, you might say. Okay, let's see. Sabine, even though it's 4 o'clock in the morning in Germany, can you think you can read that?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay.
Hang on. Removing veils and moving to higher.
It starts with maintaining momentum.
Oh, okay, right.
Oh, wait, no, sorry. Yeah, go back up. Yeah, you're right. There we go.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Maintaining our spiritual flow. You make the effort, and I will give you the victory. It is a divine struggle with purpose behind it. Meher Baba. Removing veils and moving to higher levels of consciousness is the spiritual path, and it is a slow process requiring sharp attention. Meher Baba likens it to walking on the sharp edge of a sword. It is a natural tendency for us to settle into a state of inertia, but when we do, we get crystallized in that state. As spiritual aspirants, we must climb out of that state and keep up the momentum of our inner working and spiritual longing.
And go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Maintaining momentum. Meher Baba is continuously working with each individual and our sanskaras to liberate us from our falseness within, to liberate our consciousness, to awaken us for good. For us, this means inner work and inner discipline and paying attention to everything. There must be no slack moments where we can fall off the edge of the sword. Baba would keep us on our spiritual toes to keep our momentum going with him by making promises to break his silence, assigning fasts, or telling us he was coming to visit. This would increase our enthusiasm, raise our vibrations, and create spiritual longing, which would produce a higher voltage in us. Sometimes he would even say things like, I'm going to die in a few months. Baba was trying to deepen our feelings and bring us closer, trying to make us one-pointed in our focus on him. He did not mind that those things would not happen. He had achieved his purpose, which was to keep us awake so that we would not fall back into the dream of illusion. Baba says that when the river flows at a strong pace, it carries the silt. In other words, when we keep up a positive momentum, our sanskaras are held in abeyance. When the momentum slackens, our sanskaras attack us. When our spiritual momentum is at a low ebb, our sanskaras become obstructions, and we are at risk for spiritual viruses. But if we have steady spiritual momentum, then when our sanskaras assert themselves, we can more easily counteract them without putting them into action. We must dare to live at a higher level of consciousness and maintain the momentum of working on ourselves in order to experience those higher levels. We must work at inner levels to diminish egoism and at the same time be aware of light, aware of God working with us. As in chess, we learn which piece counteracts a blocking piece. We can even use the desire nature to get inspired. The desire for happiness can be enough to get things moving. Even being fed up with feeling negative or stuck can give us the momentum we need to get underway, to get moving inwardly. Like driving a car, we must keep our foot pushing on the pedal to keep our spiritual energy going and dare to shift out of first gear and into second gear and then go on to higher gears. At first, we tend to fall back and lose the experience. Eventually, we learn antidotes to, oh, I lost the text.
Yeah. Let's see.
And then go to higher gears. At first, we tend to fall back and lose the experience. Eventually, we learn antidotes to everything that besieges us and pulls us back to lower levels of consciousness. Even after we see through the sanskaric veils, there is a period where the sanskaras still clamor due to the momentum of habit. We are changing our habitual paradigm, and this requires continuous renewing of our thoughts and feelings, continuous assertion of the truth, deep renunciation, and lightness of spirit at the heart level.
Beautiful. Great enunciation. Now, anyone have anything to respond or say to that? Have anybody run into difficulties where I mean, sometimes you go to India or you come to the center and you're all alive and vital and everything, and then kind of week by week, you see that intimacy kind of starts to lessen. So anyone that can maybe share something about that. This chapter, Darwin really gets a little bit mystical eventually, some of the mystical approaches that can keep that inner vitality alive. Well, I guess it's pretty straightforward. What do you, oh, okay.
Martha.
Jeff, can you paraphrase what we just read? Because I really don't get it.
Oh,
It was just like all these words mushed together, and without seeing the type after we read it, I just can't grasp. I mean, like, what's the kernel there, please?
well, and someone else may be able to respond too. I mean, there's an inner vitality, an inner momentum that when you're kind of in a zone where you're really at the forefront of your consciousness and you're very much in the present and everything. And then there are times when you can feel you drift back and you're just not as inspired about life. And in those periods where you're not inspired about life, some things just pile up on top of you, because there's not even Darwin talks about the centrifugal force of intensity that causes things to bounce off of you rather than stick to you. So like, when you're depressed, you start picking up all the heavier things from the atmosphere, and so it's important. He was very, Darwin was very, he made a real point of keeping the momentum going, that inspiration, to be drawing upon that inspiration from Baba within, because otherwise, I know myself, left to my own devices, I can just, revert to just, kind of ordinary life rather than the more extraordinary life that is within us. I don't, anyone else want to speak to that? They're all on drugs tonight. But did that help at all, or Marta?
Not quite.
Okay, someone else venture?
Jim, Dr. Jim.
Yeah.
Well, this is really timely. I was in Baba's room this morning at the center and appreciating that vital energy, just being in that room, feeling it was as if being in Sahabas with Baba, and just the amount of clarity that happens when you're in the presence of that. And also realizing how much it gets faded away, the longer I'm away from that source. And really noticing, like you were saying, Jeff, when you get depressed, this energy, it just gets heavier and heavier and heavier. When you're doing your own devices and you're not plugging into Baba, on a certain level, it just gets drained, and mm,
Yeah. You can lose your capital very quickly.
yeah.
But yeah. Oh,
Ben, durch.
Hi, all. I had gotten into a wonderful pattern of of remembering Baba at noon and 5 o'clock, and it helps that there's always a reminder. But I had, without a reminder, thought of him first thing in the morning when I got up in the middle of the night. Sometimes I think of something else, but literally within a nanosecond, it would go back to Baba. And sometimes I would be singing Baba songs, getting up in the middle of the night. I felt, oh my God, I am totally swallowing the Kool-Aid. It's just wonderful. And then, and then I've noticed the past few weeks it hasn't been so. And I've heard too many stories where people say, well, you'll start remembering Baba when something, you're suffering from something. That's the way to bring Baba close. And I'd like to not throw that bait out into the cosmos. And so I've been talking about this. This is something that I want to change my behavior. And somebody pointed out, just having this conversation is talking about Baba and remembering him. So if I keep talking about how I want myself to grow and change with Baba, he's getting a kick out of it.
yeah.
The way I'm doing it.
Yeah, you're talking about Baba is a remembrance of Baba, the very thing you're complaining about you're engaged in.
Right.
Say, yeah. One thing that I think is valuable is it's possible to know that Baba is always there, but not always feeling him. But that knowing is so much more permanent and lasting. And the feeling Baba that can come and go, and not to take it personally, so to speak. Baba said to Arnavas, I didn't ask you to feel me, I asked you to love me. And that awareness of his presence there in your life is really tuning into love. So, you can feel like, oh man, an hour went by, I didn't think of Baba, but you know he's there in the background. That always helps. So, Marta, is this helping a little bit?
Thanks, Jeff. Yeah.
Later on, I might share a practice that I've done for the last 50 years that I gathered from Darwin, if I can somehow convey it, because it's been a practice of mine and it has to do with this momentum.
Can't you just say it right now?
Really?
Well, we're right in the moment.
Okay.
Thank you, Jeff.
I'll I hope and ask me if if this doesn't quite make sense. So Darwin used to say that there's this invisible current within everyone at the heart level. And that invisible current, he used to gesture like this, that invisible current in most people is going toward themselves, I, me, and mine. And that current has to be reversed. So you flow out to life and you flow to Baba within. I don't know if that makes sense, but it's a current that most people aren't aware of. But if you can become aware of it, it is a great help in keeping your momentum going. Like, for example, I'm right here. I might be in a very expansive mood, but I might not be kind of aware that there's an outflowing current in me. But now what if somebody checks in, joins the Zoom session here on one of these little rectangles that I've had a very painful history with? Suddenly that current might stop. So even if I wasn't aware of a current beforehand, now that current, I can tell there was a current going because now it has stopped. And now Darwin would say, and this is important, when you let your current stop towards somebody, you are diminishing yourself by that much. You mean, in other words, and if you, for example, if you're there's around certain people you don't flow out to, or certain situations, your world is that much smaller. I don't know if that it's I mean, like I spent a lot of time with Dr. Kenmore and also Darwin. They flowed through everything. I mean, Dr. Kenmore could have flowed through the Himalayas. His flow was so powerful. I mean, it's just, and fearless, you know. And so here's how I do it. Dang, I got sign up. My throat's been weird lately. So here's the way I do it. I just kind of give you by practice for the last 50 years. When I wake up, I'm usually, and I wake up real early and I'm very groggy. You know, there's a fog. And you could say my current is stalled. It's not going anywhere. So I begin, even when I'm lying down still in bed, I will go on and start Baba's name to kind of get some flow going. And eventually I kind of sit up as hard, and I'll just go on with Baba's name and centering in Baba until I get a flow going. And the flow, and then I'll say the prayers, which really helps the flow, so that the fog that I woke up in gets transmuted into this flowing current. And that flowing current is what fuels my day. You know what I mean? So I have to work for, a couple of hours so that by 8:30, when I go into work, I'm not stalled, I'm flowing. Now, I mean, so it does mean if you can drop your periscope or whatever, sounding device into your heart, you can get a reading on whether you're flowing, whether you're stalled, whether you're receding. I don't think most Baba people recede, but a lot of people I think do. So anyway, now, so when that flow is happening, I don't have to say, where is Baba? The flow is Baba. That current is Baba. I don't have to say, what should I do? That current flows toward what to do. And the day, which would normally be ordinary if it was just me and when I'm flowing, there's like some carbonation in the day. There's a quality of timelessness and spaciousness that replaces just ordinary life. Now, what happens later on in the day, sometimes in the day and the evening, I start to stall out. When I stall out, I hope you guys are understanding this. When I stall out, Baba's kind of over there. He's over there somewhere. He's not like right here with me flowing through. And when I stall out, I don't know what to do. So my mind comes down, gives me a number of options, none of which is worth following, believe me. And when I stall out, life just becomes ordinary. It loses its carbonation. It loses that timeless and spacious quality. And so I have to do the inner work. And when that happens, now it doesn't have to be kind of, I mean, sometimes it'll be Baba's name, but it can be playing a game of volleyball. It can be playing with a kid and kind of getting into their spontaneous spirit, or reading Rumi or something, whatever can get that flow going. Everybody would have a different way of that, something that would move. And they could call their grandchild, and that gets them flowing. And so it's a kind of a responsibility I take, that so that I'm not just a passive victim of the world and life. I'm doing some active. Darwin was very proactive about coming into the day. So anyway, that's that gives you. I've done that for the last 50 years, and I mean, any questions about that? I don't know. It's good. I'm glad for questions. Go ahead.
So when you had mentioned, like, when somebody who is not encouraging you to be the best person you could be, i.e., putting a lot of negative energy in your life, would that current image, do you use that same sort of current image that somebody's trying to maybe do a circuit breaker or put a chink in the
I
chain?
mean, if I meet up with a negative energy, I have to flow through that. If I don't flow through that, I might have to just step aside or back up. But the thing is, well, let me mention one thing. This isn't necessarily an outwardly expressed flow. In other words, as a woman, you might not want to be flowing externally. Some of these guys will get the wrong idea. You know what I mean? So it's at an inner level. Then whether it gets expressed outwardly depends on the circumstances, But eventually, there's a lot of things that you can flow through and not just get stopped. You come into a room where somebody is on drugs. You can not have to leave the room, but sometimes you can flow through them and still be in their company. But but it's at the heart level of getting our own inner resources with Baba, so that our force field is strong enough to deal with many of the situations in life. Yeah.
Jeff, I find that I find that I shut myself down when my fear comes up about something. You mentioned drugs. I have a real fear about drugs, so that would be a trigger for me. Any kind of even smelling anything would be a trigger of fear, and I would shut down as a protection. Now, are you suggesting that at some later point in my evolution that I could actually stay open and stay present in a situation that, if I had fear, that I would acknowledge fear and maybe somehow keep the energy open to being present to that person?
If you can do it, if you can do it, but if it brings down your inner vitality too much, you have to go with your inner vitality. I might be in a situation that is where all the talk is so mundane that I start to get a little bit exhausted in spite of my internal efforts. So I may have to take my tent and move to a different campground. You know what I mean? So it's you kind of gauge it, but ideally, when you get like Darwin or and I'm sure the Mandali too, that could just flow through everything. It's nickels and dimes to them. But we start where we are.
Thanks, Jeff.
Yeah. Go, or does it what
Go here. What do you have to say about this?
Folks. Okay, so years ago, when I was in my younger days, in my younger marriage, whatever, life had a lot of challenges for me, yes. And my energy would go down, my level of, I would feel disconnected with the flow, as you say, Jeff. But it's, as time went on, what I realized was the more I experienced all these situations, let's see, whether it be invalidation, whether it be whatever, what is the word I'm looking for? When somebody
lack of appreciation.
Yeah, it counts you out. Yeah, exactly. So all of that, and it used to happen very often, you get thrown under the bus, whatever, or any negative situation like that, I would feel very disconnected and be turbulent inside and whatnot. But the more I went through all this negative experience, the more I realized this is all illusion, as Baba says. So bring myself, I then would make the effort to bring Baba more and more into my life. And the more I did that, the calmer things became. The situation changed by itself sometimes. And I just realized it's being in the flow, as Jeff says, when you plug into Baba and you start your day with Baba, you bring him into basically everything you do. So that today I find my life is so much more content. If somebody asks me how are you doing or how are you feeling, I basically say I'm very content, and I am, because Baba is with me all day long, whatever I'm doing, so that I'm not as phased as I used to get before. But it requires the effort. So like Baba says in the very beginning, if you put in the effort, then my grace will flow to you. So if you come across a negative situation and you're confronted by somebody who's negative, step aside for a minute, take yourself away from that situation for a moment, and bring that person into your inner consciousness and have Baba's love flow to them from within you. And you will notice a change as time goes on. I've done that in the past, and it has worked very well. Yeah. I used to have, years and years ago, when I first came here after marriage, I was working in an insurance office. And there was this girl, we used to have desks, I was in the clerk pool. And there was a lady in front of me, well, if you want to call her that. Anyway, she was somehow had a very negative attitude towards me, and I could not fathom as to why. I was like, what have I done to her? I hardly knew her. So, but every little thing she would start, put like snags in my way. She would go out of her way to make me feel low or not appreciated or whatever. Until one day she turned around, and we were just starting out in our lives. My husband was just a resident at the time. She turned around and she said, "Why do you have to work? Why do you need to work? Your husband is a doctor." Huh? So this was the kind of negativity I would be facing. But till a friend of mine actually brought to my attention that if you just hold her within your consciousness and you send Baba's love to her. And I started doing that. And believe me, she changed. I mean, it took a little while, but things really turned around.
Yeah.
So.
And when you're flowing, it's hard for things to stick to you.
Exactly.
I mean,
exactly.
You're
go through it now. So it does. Today, nothing really phases me. I would say I'm more on an equal sort of, I don't know how to put it. I'm more of an even keel. I'm more on an, I would say that. So I hope that helps, Marta.
Yeah.
Just keep Baba with you. That's it.
I know that keeps the, I used to think that of Darwin, and Darwin and Baba in the morning would cut up all these vegetables and he'd put him on this nonstick, Teflon pan, and he'd go and serve, all day long. He'd serve this nice vegetable dish, and at the end he'd just turn the frying pan upside down. Nothing would stick. It just
it's
nothing.
Like
the spirit of generosity and love and flow just kept things from getting to him. Yeah. Okay. We've got somebody. Oh, Jaysima.
Go.
It's okay.
Yeah.
So I was listening to your ritual. We won't call it a ritual because Baba doesn't like that.
Practice.
Okay. So, and I was thinking, I'll learn from this, and this is really good for me. And it's so funny because I get up and I try to first thing go into my gym. And if I do anything on my belly or standing in one direction, there's Baba, and we meet eye to eye in that one. And it's really amazing. And if I turn in the other direction, I have him really big, like the one behind your head. And so he really is everywhere. And on the way to work, there's a picture of him on my visor, and I talk to him about helping me stick with him all day. I tell him, I know that you're with me, but sometimes I lose you. So make sure I know you're with me. And when I do, it's just the most amazing day. It just changes all the energy. Even the lousy negative stuff doesn't, I feel bad for the person, or I just say, oh, I love them and they'll be better too, or whatever it is. I don't put energy into it like I used to. So I just kind of flow the waves.
Yeah. Beautiful. Yeah.
Can I just add something about a ritual, the
Yeah.
meaning? Okay. So anything you practice or do by rote or parrot fashion, say your prayers or whatever, that is a ritual. But if you do the same thing wholeheartedly and you enjoy doing it, then it's not a ritual. Then it is your giving of yourself.
Yeah.
So
Because we have to eat, we have to do all these various things.
exactly. But if with Baba with you, Baba come eat with me, then it's not a ritual. So
and I really feel that Baba is so touched by all of these ways, that we remember him, even the goofier ways, the zany ways we do. It's absolutely delightful. Probably more than the conventional ways, people have very funny prayers, or ways of remembering Baba that are very entertaining, and they're totally original to the person. They're not, nothing religious about it. Anyway, let's go on here. We kind of got we got out of the flow of this book.
What page?
It's 67. Something is happening. How about Marta?
Something is happening. Great concentration is needed to let go of our paradigm, to drop our habitual ego definitions and pierce our sanskaric veils. In letting go, strong bindings are loosened at the heart level, and powerful energies are released. We break through to the level of energy, the subtle realm, which produces inner vision. We perceive true values and light. As more energy begins to pour into our consciousness, the centrifugal force becomes established within, which repels the invasion of unwanted sanskaras and old habit patterns and precipitates our consciousness into the realm of energy. We sustain a high voltage, a higher vibration, and velocity of consciousness, and we experience buoyancy and some degree of inner freedom. This is meant to be permanent, and it will gradually happen after we uproot the habitual paradigm. We also experience an awareness of the need for controlled progress. In other words, the need to place ourselves under the guidance of the master, who can take us safely past the pitfalls of the higher realms. So keep the spiritual flow going, like running water through the pipes in winter, so that they do not freeze. Put the external on automatic. Let it take care of itself. Inwardly, we must not relax on our oars and start drifting. To stand still is to go back. There is no resting point. Mir Baba says, without consciously knowing it, the aspirant is gradually arriving at self-knowledge by transversing the inner path. Through his joys and sorrows, his happiness and suffering, his successes and failures, his efforts and rest, and through his moments of clear perception, and harmonized will, as well as the moments of confusion and conflict. So, even if we do not think we are making any progress in the midst of experiencing all of these opposites, something is happening. We are moving forward.
Beautiful. I like it read like that. You know, really kind of experience the meaning of the words. Yeah, anything to say to that?
Hmm.
You guys have it all together tonight. Oh, there's somebody up there in the corner.
Oh, look who that
Oh.
is.
Oh my God.
Wow.
They just got out of jail, you know.
Did I just become somebody?
Yes, you did.
Wow. Well, yeah, this share or this last part, when I was hearing about everybody speaking on, we were talking about remembering Baba, and I remember I was just in India, and it's a famous line to me because of the way it affected me. But I was talking to Peter Nardine, and I was like, Peter, what do I do here? Like we're just about to go back. I'm spinning out. I'm having a really hard time. We're sitting at the dinner or the lunch table, and he's just kind of looking at me, just listening, taking it all in. I'm just like, I'm really struggling. I don't know what to do. I'm afraid of not being able to feel Baba. And he cut me off really quick, and he said, "Are your feelings your master, or is Meher Baba?" And it's something in me cracked. Some part of me that was holding this paradigm that when I'm here, then I'm close to Baba. When I leave, then I'm less close to Baba. Then I have to struggle. I'm going to be all this story kind of just cracked through that, and I'm still reeling from what he said, because now hearing this, it's like I'm experiencing some part of myself because of touching in to Baba at that time a few months ago, or whenever it was February, that there's all these things that are happening. There's all this suffering that are happening, and I love what it said about the confusion and the struggles and the successes and the thises and that's, and there's some part of me that could feel somewhere deep down that knew that no matter what's happening, like this is all one step closer to him. That all of this is one step closer to him, no matter what it is, no matter what I'm facing, especially sometimes intense bouts of shame or intense bouts of suffering, just mental suffering. Even then, it's like, instead of, I think before I would be like, Baba, why are you doing this to me? Why are you? It would just make me upset and kind of fight. And sometimes I will still have moments of that, but then I know that that's when I was hearing you read that, Marta, I just started laughing, because it was like, it's just all of this, all these lifetimes, all the lovers and haters and all the things that are happening, will happen, and have happened, all of it is leading to being with him. And that's the only thing that really, I think, on a deeper level, gives me any kind of solace. Even if I'm not around other Baba lovers, when I'm alone, I feel very alone sometimes. Even then, it's like, I feel like that's the only thing that keeps me buoyant. It keeps me to some buoyancy of not just dropping into complete hopelessness and self-hatred and all the other things, because it's just very easy to get lost and addicted to the things in this world. So even though I'm struggling, even though there's all these moments of struggling or things are happening in my family or whatever it is, it's like there's that knowing that yeah, I don't even really feel Baba sometimes, and that's okay. That's not. I know there's an experience that I think we've all touched into. If we're here, if you're listening to this, you know you've touched that place with Baba where it's all like Charles Haynes said. It's all falling. We're all falling into his arms. You know, it's all of this that's happening. Is this eventually we're just falling into his open arms. So I just wanted to share that.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, I mean that passage that Marta read, I mean, I felt a lot of we're going to say it, reassurance when I was young. You go through all these experiences and they're so intense, you don't know at an inner level, you're actually moving closer and closer to Baba. It's hard to tune in to that. But even I developed the faith that, wow, Baba says I'm moving closer to him, even though I'm, dealing with all of this external stuff. Eventually, though, it goes from faith to kind of, you get start some insights that you are growing. Because if you took any of these people on this screen 50 or 40 years ago, and then you see them as they are now, I mean, you would hardly recognize, because we have gone through a lot. But when a little kid is is growing, as your parents, you don't notice it. But the uncle comes by every 3 months, and this kid is, he sees how much the little kid is growing. I have a call here. So, and I'm on duty. So just a second. Okay. It looks like, okay, Rich.
Well, when Alan was talking, I thought back to when I was, I think it was 18. I could have been 17, but I really didn't understand what I was doing when I was young. I know now reflectively that I was searching. And what I didn't know then is that was the most important thing that I was doing with my life. And I went to a middle-class high school, so I wasn't interested in the really in the convivial society, of all that meant, including going on to college or whatever. But I was on the intellectual side, I'd say back then. So I started reading Jean-Paul Sartre and Albert Camus, thinking, existentialism, maybe there's something in that. And I think what was going on was I was searching for, evidently, what was the secret darkness about in all of life? What was that darkness about? This the great void, the nirvana instead of the nirvikalpa, or whatever it is, But so the existentialism, they taught that angst was the big problem. Why are you alive? What is it about? And in that dark, miserable angst, having gone through World War II, these writers, in France, they said the only thing you can do is be brave and continue on and affirm your existence. So it's called existentialism, right? So I got about halfway through one of those books called Le Nausée, and I got into that darkness like in my whole head. I was diving into that darkness, and it scared the hell out of me, really, to be honest about it. And I quit reading it. That was it. I just shut the book. And I realized that was really negative stuff. It was hard. I couldn't even handle it, you know. So I stopped that. That was the end of my existentialism survey. But it reminds me what Alan was saying is that what Baba has done for me more than any single thing is I know that he is reality and that he is the light. And all I have to do is just remember Baba. That darkness has no power, because really we know it's not there. It's nothing. It's really nothing. It's nothingness. It's nothing. And so it's like there's no such thing as cold. There's only a lack of heat. So if I start feeling that dark, I know it's a lack of Meher Baba. But still, sometimes it's really hard. It's hard to connect, you know. Thank you.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah. We all came out of some of that. So let's go on to, hey, maybe we should get Alan to read, you know, the next thing, which is, oh, the spiritual bypass.
All right. The spiritual bypass. At a certain point, if we have enough spiritual maturity, we realize that the conditioned level is brought forth because of imagination, and therefore is not as substantial as it appears to be. We become aware that we can bypass that whole level, and all our previous methods for deconditioning our minds, and start to burn through the walls of the spiral that is propelling us toward the truth, instead of continuing around via the longer process. This is what I call the spiritual bypass. Taking this bypass, we go directly to first cause, to the absolute, to the truth itself, which is experienced at the level of the unconscious. This is a major step in the conquest of the unconscious that Meher Baba describes. This is what the activity of grace is. This is what direct effort is. But we have not attained absolute truth itself. We have made an effort in that direction. It is the nearest we can get to the truth through our continuing process of refinement. It is like being asleep and having a dream in which we are very much engrossed, and then partially waking up and realizing, I don't have to go through all this. I can wake up, and it all dissolves. The heart gets cleared up, cleansed, so that pure light can flow through the heart center, and pure truth can be asserted. One then enters fully into the love realm, and at this level, one is aware of the soul loving Baba, and one gives everything to him as one would give a bouquet of roses to one's beloved. To avail ourselves of this extraordinary bypass, tremendous self-awareness is required, but this can be the work, the effort. We are still existing in time-bound illusion. However, we are still existing in time-bound illusion, however, and may not be able to dwell at this level all the time. But we can still fall back on our chosen method of dealing with our sanskaras. With your car, you shift from lower to second gear, then into high gear. We do not just start out in high gear. Spiritually, you go gradually until you become aware that you can take the spiritual bypass and go straight to God or the truth.
Okay. Anyone, anything to say to that? I mean, what Darwin, oh,
Marta.
I just have one thing to say, and it's the same thing I always say. Like, why do I have to go through all this trouble? All I have to do is remember Baba. He's going to take care of it. Baba said, if you don't love me, don't worry, I love you. This is like so much work. That's all I have to say about
yeah,
that.
no, what you're talking about, what we
A lot
call,
of work.
that's plan A. Plan A, if you go to, go directly to Baba and just try to remember him as much as possible. Plan B, which is what I dealt with, is trying to psychologically get free up enough so that I can turn to plan A. In other words, getting out of the entrapment in the world enough to where you can out of the forest of the world and be able to see the sun of Baba's presence. And once you can glimpse the sun, then you can go in that direction. But some people, I mean, the best is what you say, turn to Baba, because you're turning to the real from the standpoint of the unreal. And that is the best way. Focusing on Baba dissolves impressions, good and bad, right and wrong, everything gets dissolved. But if you're not able to sustain that and you fall back into moods and everything like that, sometimes you have to get out of the moods.
But then you just think of Baba.
Yeah, sometimes though, thinking of Baba is too thin. It doesn't take you out of the mood. For some people. See, some people, it just, thinking of Baba is like saying the prayers with just by rote, it doesn't have the substance. So that you have to work your way back to the light to be able to get a glimpse of the light and then go that direction. But you're very fortunate. I mean, it.
No, I think maybe I'm just lazy.
No, that's the best way. Anyone else? But going back to what Alan was saying is our moods and our feelings are so powerful. It's like when we say, I wonder how I'm doing today. I wake up and I check my sanskars rather than checking my link with Baba. Oh yeah, oh God, I got to go see the boss today and he's gonna abuse me, and I'm always in a second-class citizen, you know what I mean? And we go to our sanskaras, which we've been doing for eons of time, and that's the arbiter of truth. Instead of going to, wow, I've got a connection to the boss, the one who runs this whole place, and go with that. But even in the course of the day, sometimes the feelings and moods and, I mean, your mind can tell you you're a lousy person. I got all the data on you, and it can go back in time and tell you, yeah, you're really, a jerk. It's got all the data, but it's go to our, the connection. We are sitting in the treasure of love right now, but our attention is focused on the shadow and not the light. We are itself. It's not like love grows. We are already love, and we're hoping the clouds will kind of thin out so we can actually see that we are the sun itself, or Baba, identical with him. Anything? Oh, here's an interesting. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just appreciating how Darwin was saying about you don't just shift into high gear, you don't just automatically go straight into the high gear. And I mean, there's something about that in a practical way. When I wake up and I know somewhere in myself that I, probably might help me to think of Baba right now, but instead I'm like, no, I'm just gonna pick up my phone. I just pick up my phone instead. It's like I instead of choosing Baba, I pick up my phone, or I'm like, I'll do a number of things, and I don't know if this is like just self-suffering or just whatever getting into it, but I think it's I'm not sick of the world completely all the way yet, and I think there's periods of time where I can think of Baba, and when he talks about first cause, I have had times in my life, I think, like Diane was saying, where I could really feel myself, I would say, going to just first cause. I just could feel that I don't need to distract with everything else. I don't need to go around the long way. It's just like Baba, Baba, Baba. And I had that momentum, but I don't have that right now. And that's just a phase that's here. But I also don't doubt that that's, it's part of the progress. It's part of the specific work that I'm doing in this body, and it's okay. So it's not a problem, and it's not like I'm tisk tisk tisk. The big guy is gonna find out I'm doing some bad things, and I'm gonna get punished. It's like it's trying to get out of that mindset, and so I just appreciate that it actually, there's a practicality here. It's like you get up, you show up to yourself with Baba. I really, there's just something about that got to me.
Yeah. Yeah. The self-compassion and self-acceptance are really critical in this whole life with Baba. I mean, self-acceptance and self-compassion, more than self-improvement. I found self-improvement is endless. Yeah. But I want to just mention one thing that Erich used to say. He would say, you Westerners, when you come up against an obstacle in your path, you make these Herculean efforts to surmount above them and get on the other side. But in the East, when we come up against an obstacle in our path, we fall at his feet. But we're kind of very much into personality. I'm going to tackle that thing and I'm going to rise, I'm going to climb over it. And I'll tell people how it's done. Okay.
Rich. I don't want to make this long, but Alan, you brought a thought to my head. When I was younger, there was a very active Denver group. And that really, really helped me because it interrupted my personal weekly drama to just be with Baba and those people. And that was immensely benign. It was really helpful. Now, I haven't had that for quite a few years now, but I don't know if you guys have a local group, but really helped me.
Yeah. Yeah, they've got some people around over there. And yeah. Well, that thumb moves. Okay.
Bob?
Yeah.
Speaking of Denver, yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes an unexpected wake-up call seems to be necessary. I mean, a few weeks ago, I was in a place of inertia that I have never experienced before. I mean, I didn't want to do anything. I didn't want to go anywhere. I didn't want to do anything in the house or in the yard. I didn't want to go for walks. Could I have fallen asleep and slept for 24 hours? I would have done it. I mean, it was awful. And I've never experienced this before. And I didn't have any thinking, repeating Baba's name didn't help. Nothing seemed to, I don't know. So I finally dragged myself out of the house to do some work in the yard. I had my wide brimmed sun hat on, and therefore I did not see a low place on the roof of the shed. And I whacked my head and it bled and bled. And I came into the house and washed it off with cold water and stopped the bleeding and went to call my insurance. And they said, well, you need to go to urgent care. So I did that and sat around for about 3 hours repeating Baba's name. And finally, I got to see a doc who put 6 staples in my head. And well, it was anesthetized first, not all the way, but they shot some local stuff, I just got them taken out on Friday. And really, I mean, and then I was sitting there waiting for the doctor to put the staples in my head, and it actually made me laugh. It was like a Frankenstein story. I thought, okay, Baba, I guess this must be what I needed somehow, it was just bizarre. And I'm better now. I haven't shown myself because it's a little hard to talk. Then this morning I lost my front teeth. It's okay, Bob, what's next? Now I can't I called my dentist, I gotta go do that. It's a 40-year-old bridge that, and all of a sudden, I took a bite of a piece of toast and what's that? It's my teeth. Okay, Baba. I guess he's keeping me active. He's keeping me in the world, you know. All right.
Yeah,
I mean, sometimes it's absolutely bizarre, but you know, it's just, all right. That's all.
yeah, and here it is after 50 years or more with Baba, you can also suddenly lose your momentum. You know,
Yeah.
I mean,
It's-
it can happen right out in the middle of nowhere. Yeah. You know, I'll mention one thing that Darwin, in this, he talked about the spiral. And it's a way of looking at our life. He described there's a spiral that's going around and around, and goes higher and higher up to Baba. And it makes these circuits. And say, suppose you have a trouble with authority figures. So you way down at the lower level, you have to deal with your dad or something like that. And it goes around, and then there's a teacher at a higher level you're dealing, and then it comes around in your first job, you're dealing with a boss. And then, you know, it goes, you keep dealing with the same problem, but we don't realize we're dealing with it at a higher level. You know, and we go and we're working at a higher and higher level with these complexes that we have. But then Darwin said it's possible to burn through some of those spirals and get into you know, one of the smaller spirals. You know, so you don't have to take this huge round. If you learn your lesson of like dealing with you know, people, controlling people, and you kind of learn that lesson, you can burn through. You don't have to keep going through the same thing. You can move higher and higher. So that's just an image that I find interesting, because I have some of these same things that keep happening, you know, but I'm getting better at them and I'm getting through them faster, but they're still there. So anyway.
Yeah, fits in.
You just reminded me, Jeff, and so a couple of others did, of the story that Ann Giles told me. She was one day going up the elevator with Dr. Harry Kenmore, you had mentioned, Jeff, and they were going up the elevator, and Harry goes, "Well, are you ready to get off the merry-go-round yet?" And Ann just kind of went, "Well, gee, Harry, I think I'm still attached to things." And he goes, "Oh, well, better luck next time, next lifetime."
Yeah, what a character. But he would say
Yeah.
that like an Old Testament prophet. It what, you know, would blow your hair off, you know,
Yeah.
in the elevator. Yeah. Hey, so what let me see what time it is. I've lost track here. Uh-huh. I'm sure we wouldn't be able to get Adrian to do something on the piano for us. That's probably too much.
Well, I don't really feel like it,
Okay, you don't have to.
but I
You're
do feel like sharing something.
oh
Like,
good. Yeah,
speaking. Is that okay?
that's
I'll try to
perfectly okay.
say it like poetically so it like feels like a song, you know?
Yeah.
Wow.
Not everybody
What
got
was that character?
Sorry, I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, I was just thinking, you know, like Marta said something that I really appreciated before, which is just so real, and I relate to it so much, which is just like, why do I have to do all of this work? It's just like, but I don't know exactly the context in which you meant it. Like, I don't know if you meant it like also in the way that I feel that a lot of times when with Baba, but it's like recently I've been feeling like just burnout, like Baba burnout. Like, which is sort of embarrassing or hard, you know, it's like Baba burnout. I'm just like, this is so intense. And I'm just, bro, Baba, what the heck? Like, you know, and then, oh my God, it's like I was in India and I felt like I had been in a drought, in a spiritual drought and that, you know, anytime I would, you know, go to Myrtle Beach or be in Sahavas, it would be like this, just, you know, gallons of water. And then I'd leave, and then I'm just back in the dryness of life, you know, without feeling like Alan's talking about, like that connection, without being able to sense and soften, and what ends up, what I go through is just doubts and lack of trust, anxiety, spiraling thoughts, and just being really like, and also as Bob shared, just I get inert. I feel inertia. I don't know if it's coming from the same place. We all have our reasons for that, but just depression and just like lethargy. And then I try and I reach for Baba, and it's like I almost have become sort of addicted. I didn't realize, I don't know if this is 100% true, but it's something that I want to share. Like addicted to the intense experiences of Baba, in order to really like be able to just feel it and like trust it, you know. And I came back from India, and I had this 1 month of just pure, like I was in total trust. I wake up and I knew exactly what I was going to do that day, and I didn't get all spun out and like stressed out and anxious. And I was just like, yeah, Meher Baba's God, and all you have to do is love him. And that's what they told me. You know, Meher and Baba, they made it really clear. All I have to do is just love him. Loving Baba is the solution to all of my problems. That's all I ever have to do. And then like I had to have a root canal, and I like lost something, you know, I like, you know, all these things kept happening, like just little problems, not like big, huge crises, but just the mundanity of life, the obstacles. And then I'm just like, I felt like I just went straight back. And of course, we're always going forward, but it does feel like this descent back into the drought of like, why do I have to work so hard to feel you? Okay. And then here's the like sort of the thing that occurred to me the other day. I was at the DMV, and I was like, I had to get back to work, and I like had this like short amount of time, like the time was running out for when they were going to call my number. And I was like, am I going to have to leave and come back? So intense. I kept thinking about Erich and how they would, and the Mondlin, how they would just have these things that they had to do. And Baba would like make them do this crazy stuff for him, like crazy, just crazy stuff. Like telling everyone in a bank that they had to leave so that Baba could like meet with a must or something. I was like, what the heck, you know? And I'm sitting there, and I'm like, okay, let me just try to soften. And like, I can't like Erich the DMV right now. I can't like, you know, make a wizard come and make them call my number. So I opened up my phone and just looked at a picture of Baba, and I expanded it, you know, and it's just him smiling, you know, like the don't worry, be happy Baba kind of. And I start looking into his eyes and just like pouring my anxiety into his eyes, just pouring it in, like feeling it just like, you know, like a cartoon, just like, and I started to feel better. So then I got up and started pacing around, and like, you know, maybe I'll do something, maybe I'll go talk to, you know, nobody, it's the DMV. This is like, Erich would even be struggle with the DMV in El Cerrito. So but I'm standing there, and whatever, it all worked out. Everything was fine. And I literally pulled up to my, you know, house minutes before my student got there, and it all worked out perfectly. But like the feeling that I had after doing that was that Baba was then very actively present with me all day. And I just noticed the synchronicity that is always happening. That was the thing that, I'm sorry for rambling. I'm going to keep going though, because I'm really feeling it. But like Baba's always doing these things. Like everything that we're experiencing every day, all the time, is actually Baba's doing, right? So all I did was, in that moment, like you said at the beginning, Jeff, like I was actually just tuning into the flow of Baba. And then I could notice that Baba's flow is happening constantly through me, in my text messages, out, whether I pick up my phone or not, like there he is. And so then like the next day happens, and then here's where I just want to, you know, have mercy and compassion for myself. I don't do that the next day. Or the next day, I'm not pouring my anxiety into Baba's eyes. I'm sinking back into, why is this so hard? Life is super annoying. I wish I was further along in the path. I'm annoying myself. and Bob is annoying and leave me alone. I don't even trust you anymore. Is this a figment of my imagination? So I'm just saying all that because it's actually Baba's joke, because I would imagine that, like, because in those moments where I am feeling him and seeing him, it's so intense. It's like, it's nothing is real except for Baba's love. And I've experienced that enough times to like have it be emblazoned into my being. And it's actually like such a silly, stupid joke that I spend so much time in this like fittering, whatever the word is, doubt and spiral. It makes no sense. It's so stupid. And I think Baba must be like, you're so funny, crazy little monkey. That's kind of how it feels. So I just wanted to share that.
Yeah.
Thank
That that's plan B, moving toward plan A.
All right.
No, it I once said to Marwan Jesawala, when I was just like what you're describing, I was in a state like that. And I asked him, what can I do? And he said, endure, endure, endure. What kind of answer was that? I wanted some, I needed the password to get out of it. But sometimes if you don't feel these things, you won't have the empathy for what your other fellow beings go through. And they go through it all the time.
So true. Without any escape, without
They're stuck. They're stuck with it. You have at least some shelter you can find from time to time within yourself.
Yeah.
But it's, if you, I'll tell a story about, a little episode with Mara. Back in the early 70s, I was there at Marazad, and Mara was saying goodbye to this lady. She was on the porch and we were standing below, and she was saying this woman was going back to the West. She came to the end of her pilgrimage, and Mara was saying, remember Baba, take him with you, say his name. He loves you unconditionally. She's talking like that. Then she says, sometimes we feel empty and depressed, but we know Baba wants us to be cheerful, so we make efforts to be cheerful. And I'm a young kid. I'm thinking, this is like the beloved of the beloved. She has been next shoulder to shoulder with the source of all of love, and she hasn't mastered the experience of a joyous heart full of Baba's love. And what came to me, I said, what love must be something different from what I thought, because Mara is radiating the most loving person I'd ever been with. And you felt the love around her, but her own experience of herself, I was very surprised. Mara feeling depressed and empty. So what that meant to me is, after that, I never felt bad if I felt empty or depressed or whatever my mood, because love is on a different track. It's in a different place. In other words, you both could be totally depressed and miserable and everything, but someone, there's an accident outside your apartment there, you would run down and get that person to the hospital. In other words, the love in you was not dependent upon your mood, So that little exchange just with Mara really changed. I didn't take my moods personally. They're like seasons, we want to stay in springtime, but you can't stay in springtime. Spring moves into summer, it's dry, it's scorching, it's humid, but then it moves into the fall and it's cool, and but then things start dying back, and then in winter everything is but you can't. A lot of spiritual groups, they want to try to stay in springtime, in the springtime of moods, but it's not going to be possible. The moods have to go through their cycles like the seasons. You're not going to get that loving, hopeful mood of springtime with Baba all the time. Anyway.
Bob, you're
We
on.
can't hear you, but we're learning how to read lips.
That, yeah, that really clarifies for me, Jeff, a quote from Rick Chapman's book, You and I. And I can't remember the entire quote, but the statement from Baba is, do not let the fact of your depression depress you. That never made any sense to me, but
Oh, wow.
now it kind of does.
Beautiful. Yeah, say that again.
Do not let the fact of your depression depress you. And it's a longer quote, but that's a chunk of it.
Yeah, there it is, right there. Or what Baba said to Arnavas, I didn't ask you to feel me, I asked you to love me. What a thing to say. I didn't ask you to feel me, I asked you to love me. Love is beyond feeling, you know, but it's hard not to take our mood seriously as a sign that we're not doing things properly, you know, or we kind of condemn ourselves because we're feeling whatever, we're feeling moody and negative. Hey, well, let's see. I think we have I think we should well, let's see. What time is it? We could read this last. Let's read this last. Let's read this last thing, Anthony, and then we'll come to the end of this chapter.
Okay, a new paradigm. When we take the spiritual bypass, we are standing upon the truth within. We create a new paradigm of who I am, a paradigm based on one's ideal, the beloved, and we resolve to stick to it through thick and thin. We resolve to counteract the inertia of the false self and refuse to be victimized by our old limiting paradigm of who we thought we were. We live a kind of double life while dwelling consciously in the unconscious. We have to be rational and function normally in the world. We have to live and assert the truth, and yet at the same time, live in the world in right adjustment to it. Baba himself is there to help us do this. He said in 1936 to the Westerners he had called to India, quote, I will teach you how to move in the world, yet be at all times in inward communication with me as the infinite being. I feel that this applies to each one of us in accordance with our capability and interest in taking the spiritual bypass. We can learn to live at the inner level all the time. It is restful, like getting beyond the choppy waves to the deep, calm sea. Dwelling in the unconscious consciously, we experience stillness, peace, and fulfillment. But the main thing we experience is divine love. Continuous oceans of pure love flow through our hearts. We leave the I far behind. However, we must remain vigilant and be aware of surreptitious sanskaras slipping in from all directions. If they do intrude, bring them into the stillness where they will dissolve into nothing like salt dissolving in water. If we make these efforts with the Master's grace, our ideal will manifest and become our reality. Someday when we get through with all of this, we will discover that all along we have been dwelling in the kingdom of God.
Beautiful. Wow. There's that quote of Baba's that's been going around. I tell you, don't worry, be happy. Why? Because I know the ending, and the ending is beautiful. So that we can just get through the next 3 weeks. No. So let's have a few moments of silence. Well, is there anything to say to that last thing there? One thing he is saying there is make your ideal not a worldly ideal of who you are, but the spiritual ideal, and get your sense of who you want to be more aligned with Baba. Yeah. Any last things to say? Let's have anyone have a Baba quote to.
Anthony has raised his hand.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I was just going to say real quick. I mean, as far as tools and techniques and all that, I mean, I could go into a lot of stuff, but I don't know. It's interesting how Baba, says that, during the Avatar period here that, love is the main access point to him, and that, meditation isn't really necessary like it is during, periods where it's not the Avatar period. But I don't know. I still keep my twice daily meditation practice and try to take his name in that space. And then throughout the day, take his name. And I just feel like it brings me back into that space of meditation that I'm reminded of twice a day. And I don't know, it just seems like it's so helpful in going into that peace and stillness during the day and maintaining it. But I do respect that he didn't necessarily emphasize that everybody has to do that, but I don't know. I still think it's really helpful to have some kind of little meditation practice.
Yeah. I mean, I think Baba was, what I kind of gathered is not necessarily, it doesn't have to be formal meditation, but he's asking for 24-hour of meditation, focused on him. So, but you may, you don't necessarily have to have a posture. You can sit around like Diane and Terry, just sit on the sofa and think of Baba all day, relax, eating a Klondike bar or something like that. But, yeah, I think Baba means that, these kind of very formal types of meditation, but anytime you can stop. The last message that Mara sent to the West, she talked about creating in the course of your day these speed breaks, these I don't know what do we call them, speed breaks. They call them speed breakers in India, so that you slow down. Speed bumps, and you slow down, think of Baba, and then continue up through the gears till you're in the high gear. But what I mean is that all those like little times of meditation are those speed breaks that you take in the course of the day where you remember Baba, Yeah. Well, let's have a few moments of silence, and then if somebody has a quote.
I do.
Oh, good. Okay. Jai Baba. Yeah. Okay. Who was it who had the quote?
I did, Jeff.
Okay, good.
Baba says, repeat my name every second, every moment. If it becomes so natural in your subconscious, automatically it will come out during moments of difficulty to help and save you. Jai Baba.
Yeah, Baba said his name was more powerful. My name is more powerful than I am. Can you imagine? Baba said his name inwardly himself all those years. So he has invested his name with tremendous divine substance. It's not just, yeah. It's not, just another word. It's really, he put a lot of substance into it. So any last comments? Otherwise, with Gail, we can go up the hill to Baba's tomb.
Yep. Come on.
Yeah. Richard, yeah.
As per Anthony's comment, I never was really a meditator. The only thing I ever tried to do is like see golden light and put it on somebody, and it's kind of rewarding if you can do all that. But I know I heard Nan's story at the Rocky Mountain Sahavas one time, and this is Jeff's partner in Myrtle Beach, Anthony, and Nan was an extraordinary meditator. She blew me away. I could never have done what Nan did, but she was a real serious meditator, and it led her to Baba. Anyway, thanks.
All roads lead to Baba. So, anything else?
Yeah, I still have that issue with that quote that you just gave, Jeff, about, where you said Baba said about the ending.
Yeah.
How did you say that again?
I tell you, don't worry, be happy. Why? Because I know the ending, and the ending is beautiful.
So that means there's an ending.
Yeah. I'll tell you something. Here's another thing that I found interesting. Yeah, so, eventually we're just going to be there, in the sunlight. If, and it's, eventually this movie kind of comes to an end. In fact, the Mandali wanted to serve Baba as much as they could, as deeply as they could, and put off the ending. Because once it's over, then you're of no help in serving Baba. You're off in the ether, so to speak. But now what was I going to say? Oh, I got distracted.
Talking about endings.
Huh?
We're talking about endings.
Oh yeah, no, this is something else.
But I could help.
A guy came to Baba, and he, knowing that Baba's God, he wanted to get God realization. And he was kind of insistent. Give it to me. You can do it, and I'm up for it. Baba said, what if you were climbing? I'm paraphrasing. What if you're climbing Mount Everest, and you're with your whole crew and everything? You've got a certain distance up Mount Everest, and then a guy comes along with a helicopter and says, "Well, I'll just take you up to the summit." You don't even have to. Would you want to? Would you want to just be taken to the summit? And the guy said, "No." Because the work and the effort and everything is part of the beauty of this. It's part of the appreciation. If someone came along and just lifted you out of here without, on a Saturday afternoon, and you get kind of involved in the whole process, and generate more and more love. So it's not, like I say, it's not. Would you want? If you right now, if Baba came along and said, "I'll give you realization," just like that, what would you say? Raise your hand if you'd like to have realization right now. Oh, there are a few.
Having a pretty good time just being annoyed at everything, and
Yeah,
talking to you guys and eating chocolate and like overeating dinner, is pretty fun.
Yeah, no, we have an opportunity to get, kind of see the whole fabric of life, Anyway,
Hey, Jeff,
Yeah.
could you real quick tell about, I don't know if it was you, but someone, when you'd walked into Mondley Hall and Erich was talking about something about he was sort of looking at you guys and someone had asked him something and he'd mentioned about, well, all your guys' cups are full. And he said something about his being.
Oh,
Your cups are
yeah,
empty.
Charlie. This came from Charlie Gardner.
Oh, Charlie. Okay.
He came out to Marizot early one day before the bus, and and they went inside Mondley Hall, and he asked Erich, "Is this your last lifetime?" I can't remember exactly. Erich was always a little bit vague about that. I've heard he's given slightly obscure answers, but then everybody came in from the bus and they're all sitting around in Mondley Hall, and Erich looks over at Charlie's on the other side of the room, and he says, "I envy you, Charlie." And he said, "You envy me? I mean, you got to be with Bob. You spent your whole life with Bob. How could you envy me?" He said, "Well, years ago, I came through that threshold, and Baba gave me a glass of his wine. And I have only a few drops left in my wine, in my glass. But you have a whole glass of wine there. You get to enjoy that. And I've only got a little bit left. That's why I envy you." And then Erich said, I would take something like 1,000 lifetimes just to come back as a mangy dog to be with him. Just to come back and comb his hair one last time. So that's the way they were. They weren't wanting to get out of this. They were hoping to stay. There was one guy, well, I know I'm keeping you guys up late. There was one guy that his name was Pleader, and he came to Baba for God realization. And Baba put him through all these austerities. This is in maybe the mid-20s. In 1938, he comes out to Mehrabad. He was in Mandalay for years too, but he came from Bombay, and he said to Baba, you said you were going to give me God realization, and years have gone by, you haven't given me God realization. This was up by the tomb. Now, Pendu was up there trying to put the second floor on that water tank, and he was doing Baba's future tomb, and he was up there busy. And so at that moment, Pendu was walking by, and Baba says, Pendu, I'm in the mood to give you anything. What do you want? I don't want anything, Bob. And he went on. So here's a guy asking for God realization there. And he's in the mood to give Pendu the kingdom of heaven. He says, I don't want anything. So there you have two different approaches. Anyway. Okay. Well, you folks have a good life. I wish you all the success. Houses in the suburbs,
I just wanted to share in the chat. I just released a song from my upcoming album, and it's a song called "One Last Time" that I wrote about that thing that Erich said. It's like really a song about Erich, and I felt like he kind of wrote a song through me or something like that, something along those lines. So
can you play it?
I put the thing in the chat.
Can you put your CD on and play it?
You guys want to hear? I can share. I can play it, but I'd have to be allowed to, or maybe if somebody wants to play it,
Seema can play it.
Yeah. Oh, I'm co-host.
Only if he has it, but it's a new album, so.
All right, I got it.
Yes,
Sorry, hold on a sec. Let me just make sure I share sound. Wait, hold on. I have to just do it again. Stop share.
Well, that's the title of it, huh? Squarespace?
Squarespace, yeah. That's the title of my new song. It's called it's about websites basically, and how Erich used to build websites for Baba. Okay, so sorry, it's going to be really loud and weird for a sec. There we go. Sorry for my face being.
In the evening of my life, I will see your name in lights and the stars in my eyes will shine brighter. When you turn that one last key and open up the door for me, I will take you in from the threshold before I fall inside, just to see you like this one last time. Oh, to love you like this one last time. When they come to mourn my name, to cry from grief and ache with pain, will you remind them, ooh, I'm at home with you dancing up. If their fear becomes too great, tell them to appreciate just how brief the chance is to love like this, and to see you like this one last time. Oh, to love you like this one last time. Oh, to see you like this one last time. Oh, to love you like this one last time. One last time. One last
Beautiful. Wow.
Absolutely gorgeous.
Beautiful, beautiful. Yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful.
Yeah.
How do we get the album?
Yep.
Well, it's gonna be out really soon, like in September, and I'll probably have some copies, CDs. If people still buy CDs, I'm printing them out, and I'll have them at Sherry-R, and then people can download it on Bandcamp, and then it'll be on Spotify or iTunes or whatever. So it'll come out next month. I'll ask Angela to help me spread the word to you guys.
Yeah, beautiful.
Gorgeous. Thank you so much.
So before we can go, Nasreen has to clear out the bar room.
Okay. Avatar Meher Baba Ki Jai. Avatar Meher Baba Ki Jai. Avatar Meher Baba Ki Jai. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba.
Thank you. Thank you, Jeff.
Yep, her voice reminds me of in quality of Mara.
Jai Baba.
Yep. Okay, wonderful. Thanks everybody for all that you shared and everything.
You
know.
got Adrian to sing.
Yeah. You know, and I
I
think
saw what you did there.
I quoted this a number of times, but back in 1970, Erich was asked, is Baba going to become a religion? And Erich said Baba was adamant that it not become a religion. So how can we avert that? And he said, if his lovers would get together in small groups and share their mystical experiences, it could be averted. He said that in 1970. I would have said to share their their experiences of Baba. Because you can't make a religion out of our experiences are so unique to ourselves. You wouldn't be able to make a dogma out of it or a religion. So here we have that's, and so it's beautiful that, that you're
I
all
think
sharing.
Baba's word for probably where most everyone here is Tarika. Sharia is the religious, cultural phenomenon, and Tarika is that searching through Baba, of course, for us. Tarika.
What Rumi said, to travel without a master, it can take 200 years to make a 2-day journey.
That's great.
Yeah.
Hello.
So,
Excellent.
anyway, so I think we should give a hand to Sabine and Johannes for getting up at 4 in the morning.
Thank you. But it's so wonderful to go back with all those open heart energies from you all.
Yeah.
And then waking up later.
Yeah. No, it's, yeah. Well,
I got a birthday to watch the U.S. team lose, unfortunately, but I was up at 3:30.
Yeah.
The only time I've ever got that up.
So Lauren, you're coming up to the center in a little bit with some of the.
Yeah.
When is your date?
The 31st, I think. And Anthony's coming too.
Yeah, good.
We're renting a bus, a big van, Jeff. We're throwing a bunch of us from Temple of the Universe in there. We're gonna come see you guys.
Magical Baba bus. And
what fun.
And hopefully it'll be blue, but it probably won't be.
Yeah.
It's gonna be epic. I can't wait to see you guys.
Back in the 70s, people would, show up in VW vans. Just packed, with people. It was a real phenomenon coming to the center.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and Priya, we got Priya's there from Delhi. We got from Pune, we got VJ. So we got
Is Dinku?
Dinku is there.
Mumbai.
Yeah. And Sonober is here from Bombay. So, people are coming in from all over. Yeah.
Adrian and Alan from Berkeley,
Yeah. Okay, well, I'm gonna go. Well, thank you, really.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Jai Baba.
Yeah.
Jai Baba.
Jai Baba.